Okay, give it about 10 seconds for people to come in.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about how to navigate the local, state, and federal resources available to you. We've already had probably over 100 people register for this webinar, and this is our 4th or 5th webinar. Changes every week, updates to these programs every week, as you can imagine if you've been following along in the news. This is we are live from 12:30 to 2 o'clock today because we will have a Q&A at the end of the webinar, so stay around for that. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Claire Briglio. I am the Communications and Business Disruption Resource Director for the Economic Development Collaborative. I've been a part of the Economic Development Collaborative for about 8 years now. Serving as a small business development advisor and then coming on board as the communications director during the Thomas fire and then a Hill-Woolsey fire. And so this is my 3rd federally declared disaster in as many years. And I just appreciate everyone who's on this call, on this webinar. I know in the past, since March 11th, the world just literally turned upside down. And we have been working with around 1,800 clients up to this point, giving them guidance and resources, helping them make decisions that they need to make at this time. And so just a couple housekeeping rules. Yes, Emily is saying thank you to everyone for being here. I'm joined by the Visionality team on the back end. They will be helping filter questions and any technical difficulties. So if you are having technical difficulties, please use the chat feature to communicate with the team, and use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen to submit any questions that you may have at the very end, because we have a lot of content to cover, and I'm guessing that a lot of questions that you have will be answered in today's presentation. It's about a 35-minute, 40-minute presentation, and then we'll go into Q&A. And let me just double check here that we're good to go. I'm going to be sharing my screen shortly, but I've shared this idea. I've been thinking about this idea of this moment in history. I like to study times and seasons and specifically history. And this idea of the new normal, and we're in an unprecedented moment, and all that language that's being thrown around, I was giving that some more thought this morning, and it reminded me of, how many times in history do you actually get a chance to say, I'm no longer going to operate the way that I was, I'm going to do something completely different. I mean, how many times in history does the world stop, end in a way that it's been operating, and is given another chance to pivot and choose a new direction? And I literally can't think of really any time that the whole world has been able to do that. I mean, Noah's Ark kind of comes to mind if you come from a Christian background, but the point is that during certain times in history, and especially during when the New World was being explored, there were certain explorers that would come to a different shoreline, and their warriors had the opportunity to turn back. And instead of turning back, these leaders would say, we're going to burn the ships. We're going to burn the ships so you cannot go back to where you came from. And it was a symbolic and literal message to the people that were getting out of the boat, to the explorers, to the warriors and soldiers, like there's no turning back. And I know in talking with a lot of business owners at this point that there are many of you that are at that no turning back moment, and you're having to redecide, repivot, restructure, remodel your business in a world that looks very different than it did before March 11th. And we're standing with you, and we know that the resources that we are presenting today will assist you in that pivot, in that no turn back moment. But I just wanted to mention that, give that some thought today, because this is really it's a challenge as much as it is a gift. that we're being given. And I know how difficult this is. I know how difficult it is in spending so much time with all of you as you've been trying to navigate which decisions to make and where to go. So with that being said, I'm going to share my screen and start the presentation. Here we go. 1 second. Oops. Move this out of the way. There we go. So this afternoon, again, we're going to be talking about how to navigate local, state, and federal resources for employers, self-employed individuals, and employees. Again, my name is Claire Briglio. I'm the Communications and Business Disruption Resource Director for the Economic Development Collaborative and the Small Business Development Center. We serve Santa Barbara and Ventura County and parts of LA County with no-cost business consulting. So that's free business consulting services through the Small Business Development Center. We serve around 900 clients a year, and as I mentioned, we've already served around 1,800 clients, given this COVID-19 impact that has impacted businesses in our area. So we have been very busy adding to staff and working the phones to answer as many questions as we can for all you who need assistance. But firstly, I want to start by saying, when we talk about any sort of business disruption, we always recommend these immediate steps. And some of this is going to be reviewed for you if you've gone through this webinar before, but sometimes it takes 2 to 3 times to actually hear something. So the first thing to do is contact your insurance provider. And this is really critical. We've been telling individuals, business owners for years, the last 3 years, to get and pay for business interruption insurance. And if you don't have this type of policy, or if you do have this type of policy, I invite you to become intimate with your insurance knowledge and your insurance policies. This is really critical to understand what is covered, what is not covered. And we have heard from a number of business owners that their business interruption insurance, as they purchased it, they were told that pandemic was not included in their coverage. And I would suggest that you would hold on and wait until the federal government decides or doesn't decide to step in. The state of California may do the same and require insurance companies to pay coverage for any losses during this time. So I would hold on to that. The second thing is to track losses. And this is incredibly important as you're applying for PPP or EIDL, that you understand the amount of economic injury your business has suffered. So begin to track your losses if you haven't already. The third thing is to understand your performance-based contracts. In moments of disruption, there are opportunities for individuals or suppliers to claim what is known as force majeure. So that's basically limiting their liability due to an act of God, something that they cannot control. We have an advisor on staff that can help you understand your limitations of liability and your supply chain's liability if you are working through that right now with your supply chain and or customers. So the fourth thing to do is file for unemployment, and we're going to be talking extensively about that today, pandemic unemployment assistance for self-employed individuals. But if you've lost hours or wages, I encourage you to file for unemployment. For self-employed individuals, you are going to, we encourage you actually now to wait until this new portal has been opened by the EDD, which we are told is going to happen on April 28th. So that's coming up soon. The fifth thing is to understand your cash reserves, and this is really critical. After 3 disasters, I cannot emphasize this enough. The first thing that we notice that business owners do is that they draw from their personal reserves, or they may not have even had business cash reserves because they just went through two major economic downturns or disasters that disrupted their cash flow and they weren't able to save. You need to understand what you have access to now in order to understand what you need to apply for later or now. So be sure to understand those cash reserves, and do not look at your personal savings as the only option for you, because there are government programs available and funding that is coming soon for PPP and EIDL. So we're going to look at a number of different benefit and program options available right now, or in the next few days, I should say. The current and soon to be current programs and benefits that are available now are EDD's WORKSHARE, unemployment, pandemic unemployment assistance, the SBA's Paycheck Protection Program, and the SBA's Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and the SBA Express Bridge Loan. And I'm very careful when I communicate these programs and these benefits, because the Economic Development Collaborative is a partner with the Small Business Administration. We're a funded partner, but we are not the SBA. So we do not lend SBA money. We lend private capital, and we are also not necessarily a partner, but EDD is a government partner of the SBA and I guess us, but we are not the EDD. My point in saying that is that we cannot answer unemployment insurance claims like why did you get denied, etc. These programs and benefits I'm explaining to you are available outside of our organization. And so I would direct you, when you have questions, we'll get through as many as we can today, but if we can't, that you contact these individual organizations and have them answer those questions for you. So the first is EDD's WORKSHARE program. And in working in HR, I've worked in HR for a number of years. I believe that this is one of the most underutilized and most unknown EDD benefits or programs available. This program is available in and out of any sort of disaster. So know that if you're an employer and you have production challenges that limit the hours that your employees can be available for work, or you just don't have enough work for them, there's flexibility in how you structure their schedule that they can actually receive partial unemployment benefits. So it's an amazing program. And again, it's available in and out of any sort of disruption. The beauty of this program is that it minimizes or eliminates the need for layoffs. It allows you to keep retained employees. It avoids the cost of recruiting, hiring, and training new employees. And trust me, that's a big expense. And employees do not have to apply for full unemployment. Any business or industry can apply, and it allows you to quickly gear up when conditions improve. So this might be a good program for you to look into when conditions begin to improve, as work, bringing employees back to a full schedule might not be in your best interest because the demand just isn't there for your product or service. So pay attention to this program. The key points for employers is that it's flexible. Employees can be rotated, so different employees can have reduced hours and wages each week. So you get to choose who participates. You determine which weeks will have hour and wage reductions. And one of the requirements is that 10% of employees, a minimum of 2, must participate in this program. So that's really key. A minimum of 2 employees must participate in this program, and that meets a minimum of 10% of your employees. Company officers cannot go on WORKSHARE or salaried employees, so these are non-exempt employees that are participating in this program. If an employee is absent for any reason, this can blow your percent of hours worked, the 10% mentioned above, so you need to keep that in mind. And a WORKSHARE day must be after a work day, not a vacation day. Holidays cannot be used as a WORKSHARE day, and that's really important. The other thing is that an employee cannot request to be on WORKSHARE. This is an employer-initiated program, and that's something to keep in mind. If you're an employee listening, you cannot request to go on WORKSHARE. You can suggest the program to your employer, but it's an employer-initiated program. So employers must meet these requirements before or when participating in WORKSHARE. The health and retirement benefits for employees must remain the same as they were before. You cannot lower or remove their health benefits or their retirement benefits if they're participating in WORKSHARE. You must notify employees in advance of the intent to participate in WORKSHARE. and that's really important. You need to identify how many layoffs will be avoided by participating in the work sharing program, and that's done through communication with the EDD. And you need to provide the EDD with any necessary reports or documents related to the WorkShare program. And this is done weekly through reports given from the EDD to you to then return to them. And employees are also given reports that they need to complete. So an example of this, and a very elementary example, is a business that knows that they are going to have a 20% reduction in their production, for example, so that they know that we have 20% reduction in our production and whatever we're manufacturing, so we're going to need to decrease our staff time by 20%. So in a normal 5-day work week, pay would equal, in this example, $500 a week. So employees are paid $100 a day, but we need to decrease their hours by 20%. So that equates to essentially 1 day. So they're going to be working 4 days a week, and because of that, they'll be earning $400 a week. Now, this is where the WorkShare program meets the reduction in hours. The employees' UI benefits, or unemployment insurance benefits, in this example, are $300 a week. And again, this is just an example. So the employee would receive 20% because there's been a 20% reduction in work hours, and therefore pay of $300. So that would be $60. And so the gross wages plus the UI wages would be $460 a week. So by participating in this program, you can see that the EDD will pay the employees an extra $60, and instead of the employee making $400 a week, they will be making $460 a week instead of not participating in this program. So the work sharing benefits would be 20% of the unemployment insurance benefits, as I just explained. So that is our example for WorkShare. What is important to note is that typically the work sharing employees must serve 1 week unpaid with a waiting period. In this moment, the government has said the state has said that's not required, so that 1 week waiting period has been waived. And any additional wages earned during the week in the employment Any additional wages earned during the week in the employment of an employer other than the work sharing employer will be deducted dollar for dollar from the work sharing benefits. This basically means that if your employee chooses to go work at Starbucks, for example, and they're earning a certain amount of money, that's going to be considered into the unemployment benefits that they are receiving, and their unemployment benefits will be reduced by whatever they're earning. So participating in WorkShare does reduce employee unemployment benefits, but at a slower rate than a full layoff, because they're drawing just a percentage of that benefit. So as a reminder, only the weeks, and we received this question multiple times in other webinars, so I've included this. Can an employee be on WorkShare and also claim the unemployment benefits that are owed to them under the CARES Act that increased that to an additional $600 a week? The answer is yes. So if the employee is participating in WorkShare, they are receiving a portion of their unemployment benefit. In our example before, it was $60, but between the weeks of March 29th and July 31st, they're actually going to get an additional $600 a week in payment. So that is applied to their partial unemployment benefit. If you are interested in if you're interested in participating in the EDD WorkShare program, it's the application DE8686 that's listed on the screen that you can find on the EDD's website. This is all done regular mail, still a little in the dark ages there. So you have to send certified proof that you submitted your reports. This is important. The earliest date for a new work sharing plan to become effective is the Sunday before the first date you contact the EDD. So be very careful of these dates. Be careful of how you communicate this to your employees. And I don't mean that be careful, be aware. I mean, just be cognizant of when you're doing this and you're filling out the forms correctly, so that your employee is eligible for those partial unemployment benefits. Employers, if you are looking for more information, there's a number there on the screen that you can contact. And employees, if you have questions regarding your WorkShare benefits, you can call the number that's listed on the screen below that. Just a few more things that are important to note. Employers, you are charged for work sharing unemployment insurance the same way you are charged for regular UI benefits. So you've already been paying into the system, and your employee has already been paying into the system. So there isn't an additional charge that you will be surprised by at the end of the year. What will happen, and what we are notifying employers of, is that if your employer and your employees are either participating in a WorkShare, regular unemployment, or partial unemployment, your UI premium for the year for each employee will go up. That is something that will happen. It cannot be any more than $7,000 per employee. However, that's for a high wage earner. So that wouldn't probably, you wouldn't meet that threshold, that $7,000 for this type of program, because we're talking mostly about hourly workers. But the point is that you are charged for this program in the same way as you would any other unemployment insurance benefit. To look to see if you have enough in reserve to use this program as a way of reducing hours but keeping staff employed, you would need to look at DE 2080. It's a form that the EDD sends out every February to employers to clarify what's in that reserve account. So if you have any other questions, I would invite you to call our business hotline that I'll talk about at the end of the session to clarify how to move forward with this. But I've given you enough information on the WorkShare program that if you are interested, you can contact the EDD directly. And yeah, and so unemployment benefits. So maybe you're at the point, and many of us have already been there for a while, where you have already laid off employees. Here's the deal with unemployment benefits under the CARES Act. So if you've lost hours or wages due to the impact of COVID-19, for any reason, we are encouraging people to apply for unemployment because the CARES Act increased the premium over the usual rates of unemployment insurance and has extended the length of unemployment benefit terms. So in the state of California, I think it's $450 or $451 a week. That's the maximum premium that the EDD will pay for an unemployment benefit. And in speaking to, it's based on your hourly or annual salary. So that's how they come up with that number. And in speaking to a number of what I would consider more highly paid employees, $60,000, $70,000, most of them are not receiving that $451. So I want to be clear, not everyone receives $451. So don't set your expectations on that. But between the period that I had mentioned previously, at the end of March and the end of July, there was a $600 increase that was approved over the original premium amount. So for example, if you filed for unemployment and the EDD determined that your weekly premium was only $100, then you would be receiving $700 a week because of that additional $600 premium between the weeks of March 26th or 29th and July through July 31st, 2020, if you remained unemployed. After that period of time, you will go back to the $100 a week or the benefit that the EDD had already or had deemed that your benefit was. Additionally, unemployment benefits have been extended for a total period of 39 weeks. So they're normally 26 weeks, and now it's 39 weeks from the date of the first claim. Okay, so here's something we've been waiting for a very long time: pandemic unemployment assistance. So just to be clear, let me back up. Just to be clear about this, usually during a federally declared disaster, what we have seen in the last two is that the federal government will extend unemployment benefits to self-employed individuals, gig economy workers, sole proprietors, however they make those distinctions within their system. because of the additional $600 that was extended to all of those workers that I just listed, there has been a delay in processing many of the self-employment claims that have gone through to the EDD. So for the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks, we were telling people apply, just apply, just apply. Because before, if you were self-employed and you applied to their system before their system could catch up to you being self-employed, that would just mean that you would get a denial letter, and then a couple weeks later they would reassess and you would start receiving your benefits. In this scenario, unfortunately or unfortunately, the EDD has had to build an entirely new system to accommodate the additional $600 that is being given to the gig economy and sole proprietors and self-employed individuals, and they are building an entirely new portal. So a letter from the California Labor Secretary about a week ago suggested that they needed 2 weeks to build and test their new payment system for what they're calling pandemic unemployment assistance. So this is essentially UI benefits for self-employed individuals. And because of that delay, I mean, I feel for you self-employed individuals who have been waiting for this. These payments will be retroactive when this portal becomes available. What we still don't know at this point is whether, if you had applied, and I'm just going to address this now because I'm sure there's going to be questions, if you had applied for self-employment benefits before and were denied through the previous system, is the system going to automatically convert you to self-employed and push you into this new portal, or are you going to have to apply again? That is a question we still don't have an answer to, and apologies on that. We cannot get an answer yet from the EDD. But we have been told that this new system is much quicker than regular W-2 unemployment claims, and that payments are going to be turned around within 24 to 48 hours. So that's encouraging. This also extends unemployment insurance to individuals who have had limited work history. And I mention that because there are several people I've talked to over the last week who have had this intermittent work history as a gig economy worker, and they're not sure if they will receive any benefit. The point is to just apply, because between the end of March and the end of July, you're guaranteed at least $600 a week. So we are encouraging you to apply. Remember, if and when during this period that you remain unemployed, your unemployment schedule is the same as a W-2 employee, so you will receive unemployment benefits for up to 39 weeks. So we highly encourage you to apply. And as I said, the weeks between March 29th and July 31st are eligible for that extra $600 worth of payments. So when this becomes available, we will be sending out as much information over social media as possible. I highly encourage you to connect with us over social media, and I'll talk about how to do that later, or sign up for our newsletter, so you know when to apply for this. I mentioned this. Okay, one thing to mention here though is that if you are not a citizen, if you are not a U.S. citizen, you cannot be paid pandemic unemployment assistance benefits unless you were legally permitted to work in the U.S. at the time that these services were performed. So that's really important, and you must remain legally authorized to work in the U.S. for any week that you're applying for pandemic unemployment assistance. We've received that question a lot too. So that's important to know. If you are not a U.S. citizen, you just have to be eligible to work within the U.S. during the period of time that you're claiming unemployment benefits. Okay, so we're going to move on to the SBA's loan options here. And before I do this, of course, we all know that about a week ago, the SBA was unable to process any more EIDL loans given the lapse in appropriated funding. It's not legal for them to continue to give money out once that money is gone. Unlike other parts of our federal government, they're not able to give out money that they do not have. And so because of that, if you're not aware, there's been a lot of deliberation in Congress and then in the Senate in the last few days. We are anticipating a relief package, a second round of funding here very soon. And we want to encourage you to apply for both of these programs. And I'm going to be going over some specific steps to take if you already have applied for this program and do not have an answer, or if you haven't applied for these programs yet. So please know that if you go to the SBA site right now, you will not be able to apply for this program. I'm anticipating this to become available again, probably by Monday or at the very earliest Friday. If it's tomorrow, I'd be shocked. So give it a few more days. The other thing is that if you attempt to go to a bank and apply right now, you probably will get a closed door. So that opportunity is not available yet either. But we anticipate this again coming in the next few days. So here we go. The SBA's Paycheck Protection Program, which I will refer to as PPP moving forward, is a loan essentially that will behave as a grant if you can meet certain conditions. This SBA loan program can be accessed through any bank that currently issues SBA 7A loan guarantee loans. Now, I know we all know at this point that that idea was aspirational because we heard from many banks, many people who had accounts at different banks that even had long-standing relationships with banking institutions, and they were denied PPP access. And if that is your situation, I'm very sorry. We're going to be talking about how to get around that in the second round of funding. But essentially, that's the way this program was designed to work. So the first thing that we do, or we have done, is encourage you to talk to your local lender to see if they are approved to be a 7A guaranteed lender. The loan program, as I mentioned, is retroactive from February 15th, 2020. So employers can rehire their recently laid off employees through June 30th, 2020. And the purpose of this loan program is and continues to be employee retention. So the SBA created this loan product essentially to give you, the employer, the ability to rehire workers that you had to lay off prior to February 15th, or in this case, because of the delay in the program, even during that time between February 15th and June 30th. The Paycheck Protection Program will be available through June 30th unless they extend that deadline. And with all the surprises that we've already had, who knows, that may happen. This program is available to all small businesses, sole proprietors, independent contractors, and self-employed individuals. So for key features of this program, it's also available to the small businesses and small business owners I just mentioned, including nonprofits, specifically 501c3s and 501c19s, veteran organizations, tribal concerns, etc. If you have 500 or fewer employees, then you are eligible to participate in this program. There are exceptions to this, as the SBA indicates. Specific industries that have greater than 500 employees may still be eligible to apply, and they have details and rules on how that works on their website. The maximum loan amount for this program is up to 10 million. So it's actually more than the EIDL program, which is 2 million. And again, these loans are designed to be fully forgiven if proceeds are used for payroll costs and other designated business operating expenses in the 8 weeks following the date of the loan origination. In the 8 weeks following the date of the loan origination. So I know this is going to bring up several questions. We probably will have to do another webinar just to address this issue. But again, if they're used for payroll costs, interest on mortgages, rent, and utilities, at least 75% payroll costs, then that portion is designed to be forgiven. Okay, so key features of this program: the interest rate is at 1%. It matures at 2 years, meaning that you have to pay back the full amount if the loan wasn't forgiven after 2 years. The first payment is deferred for 6 months, It's 100% guaranteed by the SBA, but it's given to you by a local lender or your banking institution. There's no collateral, no personal guarantees, no borrower or lender fees payable to the SBA. And I want to make this very clear because we're going to be talking about non-traditional lenders at the end of this webinar. But if anyone is asking you for anything else other than what's on this list, that is not part of the program. So what's important to know is that there's no collateral, no personal guarantees, or no additional expenses in filing an application for this loan. And there's a number of pieces of information that's required to apply for PPP, but every bank will have its own list of requirements. So, and I'm going to go through that a little bit more towards the end. Moving on to the SBA's economic injury disaster loan. This is, if you're at all familiar with this loan, we've encountered this now 2 times with Hilwoolsey and with the Thomas Fire and mud flow disasters. This is the same loan package, but the CARES Act extended it in a number of ways. So it included up to a $10,000 grant for successful applicants. That was one of the major changes to this loan. It's still up to $2 million, 30-year terms, 2.75% for nonprofits, and 3.75% for all other businesses, including independent contractors, self-employed. And I get this question every time. Yes, if you're self-employed, you can apply for this loan. Both loans, both PPP and EIDL, are designed to be applied for or eligible to be applied for by self-employed individuals. This is also for faith-based organizations, 501c, D, or E. And there's a wave of personal guarantees and requirements for at least 1 year, in a business application for less than $200,000 loan distribution. That's actually pretty great. So there's not a lot of upfront collateral that you have to provide for this loan. The loan may be used for fixed debts, payroll, accounts payable, and other operating cash flow expenses. Now, one thing to mention is that, as you can see, is that the PPP program is designed to cover payroll, and EIDL can also cover payroll. And so we're going to be talking about how to be careful if you receive both of those distributions, those loans, so you're not using the same money for the same expense, or you're not using both pools of money, for payroll expenses, because that will discount your ability for PPP for that loan to be forgiven. The filing deadline for the economic injury loan is December 16th. And additionally, and I'm going back and forth, I was going back and forth minutes before I started this webinar with the SBA. The SBA has implemented an automatic deferment on existing SBA loans through the end of 2020. There's information on their website. I highly encourage you to look at it, sba.gov. Look at how they're wording that automatic deferment. The question that I continued to get asked, and I continued to ask the SBA representative I was working with, is, do you have to request that deferment because it's been defined as automatic? I've received multiple answers from multiple different people that seem to contradict each other. So please share if you've had this experience. I would like to know if you've had to request deferment or if it was automatically deferred for you. If you already have an existing SBA loan, my understanding is that you're receiving a monthly statement, essentially, in the mail that says no money is due at this time. And maybe that's all that needs to happen, and there's no phone call that needs to be made, because heaven knows it takes 5 hours to get in touch with anyone on the SBA side. Poor organization is working very, very hard at this time. So if you've had an experience there, please let us know, because I really would like an answer to that question. I don't believe you need to request deferment specifically, but at times I've been told that you have. So still wondering about that. Also, If you've applied for the EIDL loan before March 29th, we encourage you to reapply when the second round of funding becomes active. And it's because before March 29th, they were using an old portal that didn't give you the option to request that additional $10,000. So there were a lot of people that had to go back and reapply. If you applied in the new portal, you'll notice that your application number has a 3 in front of it. And you can check the date, but those applications in the new portal should have a 3, should start with a 3. You should have an application number that starts with a 3. So that's something that you can look at. Okay, so how do I apply for PPP and EIDL? Just today, I put together a kind of a resource guide for, it's just really quick, a 2-pager on how to apply for federal funding in this new second round. And it's on our website. I encourage you to look at it for a number of reasons. One, I do not anticipate that there will be a third round of funding for a number of reasons that we won't get into today. But number 2, there have been many people that have hesitated for obvious reasons, not knowing how long this would last, or if they really needed funding, or not understanding, you know, the differences between PPP and EIDL and what should they do. At this point, you have to pull the trigger and you have to get in line, because this money is going to go very quickly. That is my gut instinct. Third, you have to understand the banks who have been operating PPP have been incredibly overwhelmed by the response. And I mentioned this in this last webinar, and one of the last webinars, one of our local banks who processes commercial loans, on the first day of opening, they received 1,000 applications. They process on a monthly basis 2 commercial loans, and they received 1,000 applications in one day. So you can imagine the manpower that it takes to actually process these applications. A lot of these banks just don't have. And so if you have that many applications, which they still have, right? Imagine now going, reopening the doors for the second round of funding. I'm not sure if every bank will be open to new applications. And so I'm encouraging you, if you are interested in applying for a PPP loan, that you do your research now, so that you get your financial house in order, and the information that is in this document, all the financial documents that are required to apply for a PPP loan, that you do all of that beforehand, so that come Monday or come Friday, you are at the door ready with your application. And so if you haven't, that's for people who have not applied. The underlying message here is do not hesitate. Stop hesitating, move forward. The 5th thing, I don't know what number I'm on, is research non-traditional lending institutions. We've had amazing success stories come through PayPal, which came through at the last minute with PPP being approved as an SBA 7A lender. Who knew that would happen? I mean, I was shocked. I mean, they turned around those loans like in 2 to 3 days. It was pretty remarkable. So be sure to check out those non-traditional lenders, and I mentioned a few of them in the guide that's listed on our website. So please be prepared. We want as many business owners who need finances as possible to receive these types of loans, because they, one, are intended to in part be forgiven, and 2, have the longest rate of maturity than any other loan product out there, and the lowest interest rate. So be diligent and be cognizant of what is available to you, and be prepared. The last SBA loan product I'm going to mention is this SBA Express Bridge Loan. And this, I mention this because it is currently on their website. I do not know, I do not believe currently they are accepting applications. I believe this will open back up again during the second round of funding. But this is designed for people who already have a relationship with an SBA Express lender. And we've talked with multiple clients who either received an SBA loan to open or start their business, and they already have a relationship with their lender. This, you can go back to them and say, I need an additional cash advance. So if you apply, for example, for EIDL, and you're waiting for that to come through, you can receive up to $25,000 quickly through this bridge loan. So we encourage you to check that out on the SBA's website. 2 local disaster loan options, and important to mention, our Economic Development Collaboratives Disaster Loan Fund is specifically designed for businesses in Santa Barbara and Santa Barbara and Ventura County. So if your business resides outside of that territory, I apologize, this loan product is not for you. But we operate by lending private capital. So again, we're not an SBA lender. Our loans are backed by iBank. So there was communication sent around a few days ago where people were confused because on iBank's website, which is California, if you Google iBank, you can find their website quickly. They were advertising or clarifying which lenders are backed by them. iBank is not a lender. They back lending institutions, and we are one of those. And because of that, we are able to offer these types of loan opportunities in moments of disruption and at greater risk, traditional risk, than other type of loan options. So we have a traditional loan fund, but we have our disaster loan fund, which is offering a 4.25% interest on loans from 5 to 50,000. For the first 3 months, it's interest only, and it matures at 48 months. So if you're interested in that, please let us know. You can email loans, that's LOANS at edcollaborative.com. Sorry, that's not on the screen, but if you type that in, girls on the back end, if you can type that into the question and answer, that would be great. So loans at edcollaborative.com. The second option, up to $10,000, is Women's Economic Ventures Quick Response Loan Fund, and they have been highly funded for this loan. I think the loan capital is over $1 million now. So very excited for them and their lending manager, Marty. I know she's working her tail off right now. That's at 4.5% interest, and it matures at 36 months. So those loans are up to $10,000 if you are looking for just a quick advance. I highly encourage you to check out Women's Economic Ventures website, and their website is actually wevonline.org. Emily, if you can put that in the chat, that would be great. So this is the question I always say I get all day long. This is why I seem to exist at this moment. Which option is best for me? One thing that you want to consider, especially during the second round of funding, is that at this point, guys, you just gotta apply. You just gotta apply for both. I mean, why not? There's so many reasons to apply for both, and I'll go over those in a minute. But you can apply for both. Number one. Number two, for the SBA's economic injury loan, you get up to a $10,000 upfront advance that's meant to act as a grant. So that's based actually on the number of employees. We do know that for certain now. So if you are a sole proprietor, don't expect 10,000. You'll receive probably a disbursement of 1,000. But if you're an employer with 10 employees, you most likely will receive that $10,000 if you have a successful application. And if the SBA approves you for $200,000, then you're only liable to repay that $190,000 because that first amount is meant to behave as a grant. Again, the PPP program, that is meant to behave also as a grant, a forgivable loan. So, sorry, forgivable loan, not grant. Just be very diligent in the banking institution or non-traditional lender that you're working with, that you are very clear, they are very clear with you what is required of you in terms of documentation to have that grant be forgivable. I cannot stress that enough. This has a PPP has a maturity rate of 2 years. That's essentially a balloon payment if you cannot make that loan forgivable by complying to what is needed. And you've got to hear that multiple times. Make sure all your I's are dotted and all your T's crossed in that respect. The question often comes, can half of the loan be forgiven and half of the loan not be forgiven for PPP? The answer is yes. I mean, part of the loan is designed to be, the whole loan is intended to be forgiven, but there are a portion of the loan, if you're not able to make it, for example, that 75%, you only get 65% covered for payroll, then that's fine. 65% will be covered and that part of the loan will be forgiven. But make sure that you establish a good working relationship with your lender and make sure those terms are very clear. Third, the EDD's WORKSHARE program works well in environments where the production type, where hours are known, and it works best, it works easiest, I should say, in manufacturing, those types of environments or production environments where the amount of hours or production are known. Although the program is meant to be flexible, so you can have 2 employees one week be on WORKSHARE and 4 employees the next week being on WORKSHARE, and their hours fluctuate all over the place. It isn't easy to keep track of all those hours. So know that there's an investment of your time as an employer that goes into making that choice right for you, but it is available in and out of disruption. Gosh, this is an understatement. The SBA's PPP program is still being worked out. Obviously, that is still true. And local banks, we heard it from many people who, especially with Bank of America, I hate to call them out, but that is what we have been hearing, that it's been difficult to receive clear communication around applications and deadlines and all of that with their system. We've heard that from multiple clients. So I would encourage you to make sure that you understand the lending institution that you want to develop a relationship with in this moment. And as I mentioned before, the SBA's Express Bridge Loan, which hopefully will be available again when new funding is released, can give you an up to $25,000 cash advance. And that might be a good option for you if you already have a relationship with them. So as I mentioned before, I work for the Economic Development Collaborative. We assist around 900 clients a year, giving no-cost consulting services to essentially every area of business need. And what I want to stress now is that, what comes next for you. So as you're deciding between or among all of these options, you're applying for all of them. The question is, what comes next? Say you get $500,000, you might need a financial advisor or someone to work with you to determine what you're going to do with that money, or how you're going to separate your accounts so that you don't pay for payroll via EIDL and PPP, because then PPP is not forgivable. So we have 30 consultants that we work with on staff that are in Ventura and Santa Barbara County, also remotely based, that can work with you, all remotely, and until we can meet in person again, that can assist you, and that's all at no cost. Your tax dollars are already paying for it. So I encourage you to sign up for our program. In order to do that, and in order to access any more of our services, you can actually sign up just by calling our business hotline, which I'll give you in a moment. But our website is edcollaborative.com, and check out our website if you haven't already. The EDC SBDC is available in and out of any disruption. So we're not going anywhere. We actually add to staff when we do go through these moments of disruption. So we're here and we're ready to help you. Lastly, I want to point out that you want to access, I update the business resource guide almost daily. It's located on our business, under business resources. If you can see that arrow under COVID-19 business resources, and at the very top of the page, it's available in English and Spanish. We also have webinars like this available in English and Spanish. And so if you know of any Spanish-speaking business owners or self-employed individuals or employees, please connect them with our service, because we do offer services in both English and Spanish. And also other languages, Chinese, German, French, and a few other languages. So please refer any sort of business concern our way. And I mentioned earlier, to access the business resource guide, check out edcollaborative.com/COVID-19. But There is also a side-by-side comparison on that page that covers what the difference is between PPP and EIDL. So you can look at what a scenario might be for you if you were to choose one or the other. But again, at this stage, I'm just going to say apply for both. I mean, what's the harm, really? Again, my name is Claire Briglio. I'm the Communications and Business Disruption Resource Director. And to sign up for our services, it's about a 15-minute intake process. I encourage you to call our hotline at 805-409-9159. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to hand it back to Emily, who's going to be going through some of the questions. I'd invite you to enter in your questions now if you have any. I'm assuming you probably do, and I will stay online until we have those answered.
All right, thanks, Claire, and everyone, thank you for your patience with me going back and forth as I get some clarification for Claire so she can answer these quickly. First one is from Susan. I have called Chase, Wells Fargo, and Connecta, but about the bridge loan, and all three say they're not offering it. Where do I apply? And Claire, just so you know, I searched the SBA website for this and I didn't find anything.
Okay, so as of yesterday, the bridge loan was included under additional resources for COVID-19. They may have taken that page down for a moment. The bridge loan is again meant to be accessed through the relationship that you already have with an express bridge lender. So it's not for those that are trying to find it necessarily. It's for those who already have a working relationship with an SBA lender. So I mentioned for example, we had a client who just opened a business and used an SBA loan to do so. So she went back to her lender and requested more money through that bridge loan. So that's how that would work. It's not an avenue to take if you don't have a relationship with an existing SBA lender.
Great, thank you. My husband is a sole proprietor and we both work full-time in the business. We are not W-2 employees. We pay ourselves through owner's draw. For PPP, do we list 1 or 2 employees?
I would, first of all, I'm going to say that's a bank question, but all payroll expenses should be included. So I would be listing both employees, so you could include, you know what, that's a good question. I don't know if the bank, it would require you to do 2 separate applications, which sounds ridiculous to me, but you want to make sure that both of all payroll expenses are included. So either that means you list yourself as the owner, and there's 2 owners and these are our payroll expenses, and or the bank is going to make you do 2 separate applications. I'm not sure. I doubt that they would, but that's a question for the bank.
Got it, thank you. I would like to refi my SBA loan, and in the meanwhile, I will need deferment. The loan is not a disaster loan. Will the request for deferment negatively affect the possibility of a refi later?
Well, the automatic deferments are for 6 months.
But it's not a disaster loan. So
it's not a disaster loan.
It is not a disaster loan.
We're going to have to take this question offline. So if you can give me if you can get their contact information for me, I will give them a call directly.
Perfect. Lorelai, I will connect you and Claire over email. How long does it take to get notified? We mailed the application for EIDL on March 30th and haven't heard anything, and we have no number to reference when we call in to follow up.
Oh gosh, I am so sorry. I hear this. Just so you know, you're not alone. This has been a constant point of contention and concern. I don't know. At first they said it would be 10 to 7 or 7 to 10 business days before a loan officer would connect with you. And I want to say this. For EIDL, if you've already made an application, then you're in line. and they're dealing with so much volume that they're processing them as soon as they can. So we're hoping with the second round of funding that your application moves as everyone else's application moves. And remember, those loans are served at a first come, first served basis. That was their intention. But I will tell you that I've had many clients, when I say many, maybe half dozen, tell me that they never received any communication from the SBA of their EIDL loan, and then all of a sudden they got $10,000 in their bank account, and it was that upfront advance. So obviously their loan had been looked at and deemed successful, and that distribution was made, and they still haven't received any communication from the SBA. So it's hard to say. I would keep hope that can happen, even if you haven't heard from them directly. So they're still working with applications that have already been submitted before they close the door to additional applications. So when this second round of funding happens, know that you will still be in line. So other than calling, and spending 2 to 5 hours on the phone, which I had one client do, there's not much information to get, or not much more I can give you in terms of how to get an answer from them.
Yeah, so it sounds like just wait, don't reapply, you're in the line. And I'm one of those who logged on and had a deposit in my account from my EIDL for EIDL. And so just check your accounts, because there may magically be money in there that no one ever told you was coming.
Yeah, I want to mention this too, because you said something I don't think I was clear enough. If you already have applied for EIDL, do not reapply, because that will be a red flag. Like, you don't want to reapply. It will do you no good. You are in the system. The only reapplication that I suggested is if you had applied before March 29th.
Good.
So
Thank
that's
you.
the only time to reapply.
Thank you. It seems that for many people, the extra $600 per week for unemployment may discourage them from returning to work, which may make it difficult to meet the payroll ratio requirements. What do you think?
Yes, this is true. If this is your situation and your employees decide to sit on the couch until July 31st and not come back, you have the option of hiring new individuals who and paying them at the same rate, so that your payroll expenses match what they were before. So we have talked with a few clients who their employees are going to be just sitting on the couch taking that extra 600 because it was more than they were making before. And if that's the case, they may not have a job to come back to after July 31st. That's your decision. But in the meantime, what you would need to do is clarify, keep a separate spreadsheet of when you hired those employees, when you had to lay them off, when you chose to offer employment to them based on PPP, when they declined coming back, then when you hired someone else to take that position, and what amount of money you paid them for. Because again, it's not hiring, it's not making sure that John and John are the same Johns, that you had on your payroll before. It's that the money matches on both ends. It's that the payroll expenses on both ends match. So that's something that you want to be more aware of. But yeah, certainly that was a concern from the beginning. That was debated in the House, and I believe even in the Senate, and that has happened in a number of situations.
Well, when you have to refile for your unemployment, those periodic check-ins, doesn't it ask you if you've been offered employment?
Yeah, and I think and I think some people, I think some people will still get under the system, whatever, get through the system. It's just going to happen.
But Paul, it sounds like even more you need to be diligent in your records on employee A, timeline, like re-offered a position, they declined, and just keep all those records.
Yes, very much.
Good. The 10,000 is a grant unless you get PPP, and then it gets taken off the top of what's forgivable of PPP. Is this correct?
No, I'm going to separate PPP and EIDL. The 10,000 is with EIDL.
Yeah, so if you get both, if you get, let's say you get the 10,000 advance for EIDL and you get PPP funded, does that 10,000 come out of your forgivable PPP portion?
No, it comes out of your forgivable, it comes out of the EIDL portion, not the PPP portion.
So if I got 10,000 through the EIDL advance and I got 50,000 through PPP, that 50,000 for PPP is still forgivable if used for approved expenses.
Yes, because you will not most likely just get 10,000 from EIDL. You'll get, let's say you get 40,000 from EIDL, so you will only owe 30,000.
Got it. Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an independent contractor in the travel business and I have no other employees. I applied for UI with the EDD 3 weeks ago. I don't understand if I should stop certifying for benefits since I'm in their system now and wait for the PUA. Is that double dipping? What do you suggest?
Yeah, okay, so that's a really good question and I don't have an answer to that right now. We will hopefully receive more clarity after the 28th, hopefully before then. What's the date?
22nd.
The 22nd. I mean, that's the question. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to kick them out of the system. I don't know if it's in your best interest just to call and wait on the phone for, you know, go about your day, wait on the phone for 8 hours and get it resolved. But you should be able to reapply. You should be able to apply immediately once that portal is open. If you know, and if I were you, I probably would have apply when that portal is open. And if they decline you, then I would get on the phone and you know, rectify the situation, because this applies to so many people. They're gonna have to answer this in some way or another.
Yep, thank you. I applied for EIDL and was given an application number 36XXX. I applied 4 weeks ago and I've heard nothing. Is there more to the application process? How do I get the status of my EIDL loan? Tried calling the SBA, yes, didn't work. What do you know about the process and the timeline? So you touched on this a little bit.
Yeah, so the other thing to know about the EIDL loan is that the application that you submitted 4 weeks ago, is it 4 weeks ago?
Yep.
The application that you submitted is a pre-application. So, and this is where it's confusing to me because again, and Emily, if you can clarify this on your side, that would be good. So most of the people that we know that just had money show up in their account, they didn't submit any other application or receive anything from the SBA, and they just had money show up in their account. Was that true for you, Emily?
Yeah, that is true for me. I filled out that very short pre-application online and I have heard nothing, and then I got a deposit in my bank account earlier this week. And I haven't heard, I didn't get an email notifying me of the deposit. I didn't get a phone call. I didn't get anything. So I'm just kind of sitting tight.
Yeah, so that can happen, but what we were told was that original application online was essentially a pre-application. So what we anticipated was that was a pre-application, and then you would get a call from a loan officer, and then you would get asked, you know, 50 more questions or however many, and then you would get funding. Well, that's not the way it's working. And I think it's because there are multiple systems working at different speeds within the SBA. So just because you haven't heard anything in 4 weeks does not mean that your application wasn't received, because number one, it was, you have the application number, or two, that it won't be funded, because we don't know that yet. There is no other way besides calling them or emailing them to get an understanding of the status of your application. And in that form that federal funding preparation guide that I showed you, that's backwards on the screen right now, but I showed you earlier, that's on our website, I have the number and the email that you can call the SBA and ask them call the SBA. or email disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. So that's the other avenue.
Great, thank you. If applying for both PPP and EIDL, should I use the same figures in my cost loan amount to ask for?
Well, in EIDL, you're not asking for money. So it's a different loan application. What you're sharing with them is your expenses and your, what we refer to as economic injury. So they assess that economic injury based on what you give them, based on your last year's revenue or 3 years of tax returns or whatever they're asking of you. So there's no place to literally say, I need $100,000. So that's the difference between PPP and EIDL, is that you're not actually asked to quantify the amount of money that you need. The SBA loan analyst will do that for you. And how that's done, I don't really know. On the PPP side, though, you should be using the same numbers. Like I hope you're using the same profit and loss statements, and make sure that they're on, a cash basis or accrual basis, or however you run your statements through QuickBooks or whatever service. You need to be using the same numbers, but you're not asking for money on the EIDL side, which sounds counterintuitive, I know, but it's just because they assess what your economic injury is and disperse money accordingly.
Thank you. This is a long one, so stick with me. I filed for UI as a W-2 and checked off not self-employed to be eligible. The amount was based on W-2 third quarter of 2019. The amount awarded is $75 a week. In February 2020 and moving forward, I did work as an independent contractor and earned $1,025 a week, and the job was canceled in March due to COVID-19. Under the new PUA Act, the baseline is $167 per week plus the $600. I was both an employee and independent contractor. Since I already filed as an employee, will I need to apply again on April 28th? I usually get income on 1099 for 2020 taxes. And then there's a clarification. I applied for UI week ending 3/27, and as of today, I've not received any benefit of the 75 weekly.
That's really complicated. I have to say that's a EDD question. I wish I could answer that for you, but I don't know.
Let me, just in case this helps, let me simplify it. So Tony applied as a W-2 and was awarded 75 a week in unemployment. He also was an independent contractor. So can he apply to general UI as a W-2 and as to PUA as an independent contractor? Okay,
and that is why I think it is an EDD question, because we have a lot of clients that are W-2 employees and contractors. So in that instance, I am not sure. And again, this wouldn't have mattered if there was just one system that they allowed people to apply to. So, normally in that system, in that unemployment system, it would have been one portal. You declare your Schedule C or whatever your earnings were for the last year, however you track that. But this is entirely different. So I'm sorry, I don't think I can answer that.
Okay, no worries. Will you be posting the link to the new PUA portal due to it going live on 4/28? Or how will we know how to access it?
Yes, I will make sure that we have a link to that for sure in our guide. It probably will be directly on that COVID-19 page, which I showed you, edcollaborative.com/COVID-19. If it's not there on the 28th, then it's not available. Like, I'm up early in the morning checking everything, making sure that the resources are still there and that page still makes sense. So I would encourage you to check out our Facebook page. I do almost daily briefings with new updates. So you can find us at ED Collaborative on Facebook, ED Collaborative on Instagram, and I do those around 10 a.m. You can also sign up for our newsletter. You can also visit the EDD site, but if there's any new news, it's going to come through those channels. It's either going to be on our website, social media, and or newsletter for sure.
Great.
Oh, I want to
Sorry,
stress something. We have less participants now. I should have said this earlier. You know, there's kind of a panic around, there has been a panic obviously around some of this money and money running out and all that. I would, if you're in the self-employed category and you're worried, like if this money is going to run out for me, please don't worry about that. I have actually a little more faith in our EDD system, as clunky and as sometimes in the dark ages as it's been. I mean, bless those workers, they're working 7 days a week. I mean, some of them, they're now open 7 days a week in their call center. That's unheard of. So I know that it's been difficult, and it's been difficult to get a hold of someone, and it's not, and sometimes they're not always friendly. But the point is, don't worry about that money running out. I mean, I actually, this is just from me to you. This is not the EDC's position. Just don't worry about that. If people are, there's more to worry about than that money running out. The state has it. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When will you know how much your PPP loan has been forgiven when the 8 weeks is up? And when does the 1% interest start accruing on the non-forgivable balance?
So I believe the interest starts, that's a good question, because I believe the interest starts immediately, but this is again a bank question. So you need to be sure from the bank's point of view what they need to see in order for them to forgive that loan. And I spoke to someone who was successful in getting around $172,000 for a business in town, and they were going to go back to the bank immediately after those 8 weeks were done, after that 8 week period, and they already knew what documentation they needed to show. So that is going to have to be a conversation with your bank or a lending institution.
Great, thank you. And I think you're right that the interest starts accruing right away, but payments are deferred for 6 months.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Great. How do I get unemployment, not a loan, as a self-employed individual? What form? So that would be the PUA, right?
Yes, that'd be PUA. That's what we're waiting for, that portal to open. Sounds so weird and cosmic. The portal's going to open on the 28th of April.
Good thing you have your crystals.
And everyone's problems are going to go away. Yeah, that is the magic date, and we're hoping that is true.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is $167 a week the most a self-employed or independent contractor will be paid under the new PUA plus the $600 per week? What if our income was substantially more?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the unemployment insurance premiums, or how EDD determines that, is unknown to me. I can tell you as a self-employed individual, when I was self-employed, my premium was more than $167 a week. So I don't think, I don't know the answer, other than that's not a standard for everyone. So I'm curious myself if you can get paid more than $450 a week. I don't know, as a self-employed individual. I'm not sure.
Thank you. And Deborah, thank you for your patience with me as I get some clarification on your question. So it sounds like Deborah has multiple jobs and she's curious if she applies for unemployment. Do they ask job by job, or is it total income together?
What are her jobs?
I don't know. So Deborah, repost your question and let us know, are you an independent contractor 1099 or are you W-2 for each of your different jobs? Next question. If employees have paid leave banks but are being placed on an indefinite unpaid leave, will their paid leave accruals impact their ability to collect state unemployment benefits and the PUA?
Wait, so this benefit, so this employer has paid leave for their employees. What?
Yes.
I'm a little confused, sorry.
So this person has employees and he says paid leave banks. So I'm assuming they've got a couple, days in the bank for paid leave. They're being placed on an indefinite unpaid leave. Will their paid leave accruals impact their ability to collect state unemployment?
I'm assuming he's saying he's putting his employees on furlough. They should be able to claim unemployment. That's a pretty nice benefit if you are putting your employees on an indefinite leave, but you're still allowing their paid time off to accrue. Is that?
I don't think so, but it's so like if I'm an employee and I have 10 remaining vacation days or whatever, do I need to take those days? Does the employer need to pay me out on those days before putting them on furlough?
Oh gosh, I forget that answer. I am sorry. I forget that answer. I would encourage you to contact our center if you want to get that question answered, and ask for Megan Cullen. She would be the advisor to connect with.
Great. Ryan, you let us know if you don't have that, if you need more information on that.
I think though, I will say this, I think an employee has the right to use that PTO if they're being if they're being furloughed.
Okay.
I believe they have the right to it. But ask for Megan.
Okay.
She will know.
Good, thank you. Okay, so this is Deborah again, and so she is a massage therapist and a property manager, and she's an independent contractor for both. And her question was, when she applies for PUA, is it job by job, or will she take both independent contractor jobs?
You're going to combine all of your income. So on your Schedule C, or however if you're not incorporated, like if you file a Schedule C at the end of the year, look at your tax return from the year before, or however the past 12 months, or however they're asking the question, you're going to combine all that income.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is the EDD going to increase my EDD payment as an employer?
Say it again?
Is the EDD going to increase my EDD payment as an employer? Margarita, maybe retype your question. Are you talking about your unemployment insurance rate? So like if you put people on unemployment, will your rate go up? Okay, Margarita said yes. Yes,
your rate will go up. We don't know if your rate per employee cannot go up any more than $7,000 per employee. Sorry, I got distracted by the chat. Your rate per employee cannot be any more than $7,000, but that's for a highly compensated employee. So please don't let that scare you. You probably would know right now what your rate is per employee, or look at that DEE. Look at what you're paying per paycheck for your employees for unemployment insurance benefits. But yeah, when you let go of employees, your rates do increase. What can happen is that the state may put a moratorium on rate increases this year. We don't know yet. I mean, the amount of people that are unemployed the amount of people that have claimed unemployment is beyond what even experts had anticipated. So I'm expecting that the state might do something like that and say they freeze unemployment rates or not. I'm not sure, but that could happen.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm self-employed and filed with EDD for unemployment. What additional forms do I need to fill out to reapply for 428?
Well, we don't know that yet. We will know when the portal opens.
Okay, so just hold tight. If you already applied for EDD, just hold tight until 428 and we'll know more.
Yeah, I was saying this, I did talk to someone, and this really baffled me. I mean, the world is seriously turned upside down. So he's self-employed individual. He applied already for unemployment benefits, obviously before the 28th, and he started receiving benefits. His wife tried to do the same thing and she was declined, and they both owned the business together. So that was baffling to me. So I don't know if some people are just kind of getting through the cracks, and if that's you and you're already receiving benefits, there's no need to stop your claim. So if you're already receiving benefits, just let it go, let it ride. For as long as you're unemployed, no matter what system you're getting paid out from. That's probably not that is definitely not a formal EDD response, but that would be mine.
Thank you. So Jonas, I'm laughing because you have the same question that I personally asked Claire before we all got started. So do you have a specific protocol that you could give an employer who'd received PPP and EIDL? In other words, you have a template we could use as a guide to allocate the payroll funds versus the other expenses to get them forgiven.
Yeah, so we probably will do a separate webinar on that. And in the meantime, I would encourage you to call our business hotline 409-9159 and ask to speak to Tony or Gonzalo, who are financial advisors that can help set that up for you. Because we'll do both, but we'll do a webinar on that, and then we'll also provide that one-on-one or group sessions to get people spreadsheets and understanding of how they need to keep track of those expenses.
Good.
Question.
And the best first step is to move it into its own dedicated bank account.
That is the continued advice that we're giving, and has been from the beginning. With PPP, open another bank account so it's just clean and separate. Have paychecks draw from that bank account so it doesn't take you any extra work beyond setting that up to provide the sorry, can you hear me? It says my internet is unstable. I don't know what that means.
No, we got you.
Okay. That it doesn't take you any extra work to provide those reports when you go to request forgiveness for that loan. That would be my suggestion.
Great, thank you. So Deborah, who has 2 independent contractor gigs, says, what is the approximate amount of money that you need to prove you're making to be eligible for the max unemployment?
So we don't have that information. The EDD doesn't even release that information. You just report on your earnings.
Good. So probably your whatever you reported on your 2019 taxes, if you filed them, or on your 2018 taxes.
Yes.
Thank you. As a person who was on UI benefits that ended 4/4, I cannot go on and reopen, nor is the automatic extension accessible.
That's news to me. If you've received that official report from the EDD, that is something I'm not aware of. So you received UI benefits for 26 weeks because that was the previous length of time. I mean, can you clarify that? That is entirely new news to me.
Good. Yeah, Mick, just repost your question in that Q&A and let us know. Yes, he got it for 26 weeks and it expired on 4/4.
Was the impact, so, and you received a letter from the EDD?
Please wait, he's probably typing right now.
Okay. I hope there aren't many people who fall into this category, but if you received a letter from the EDD, I would, the state of the world is very different. It was very different on 4/4 than it was 26 weeks prior. So I probably would appeal and request additional benefits. And I'm also wondering if he received, let me see, 4/4, so April, that would have been 1 week with an additional 600, maybe. I don't know if he received that, but it sounds like in that situation I would appeal, and I'm sorry, I don't have much information other than that.
his clarification, yes, he got the 600, and his clarification says that the letter just says that he doesn't qualify until mid-May. I think
Why?
appeal. Yeah, I think the answer is give him a call and appeal.
Yeah,
And we're sorry.
yes, and we're truly sorry.
Yeah. Okay, if an employer gives an employee paid sick leave, the employee can't also collect PUA. But if the employer furloughs with paid leave, is it true that the employee can collect PUA? Will the monies come out of employer or employee benefits?
Okay, I know the answer to this question, but the way that it's being asked is, I need to think about it for a moment. Do you want to restate that, Emily?
Yes, I do. Okay, so if an employer gives the employee paid sick leave, can they collect PUA?
Well, remember, PUA is for self-employed individuals. So if you mean regular unemployment, yes, but additional wages that are earned, including sick time, are included in the unemployment insurance benefit period. So let's say you get laid off and you have a bank of 2 weeks. That 2 weeks that you're given, because you're given, you get your last paycheck and then 2 weeks of your banked sick time, that is considered into your earnings for the first week of unemployment benefits. And I don't know what that calculation is, but the ADD does consider that. That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, one from the chat, 600 UI is one time or every week?
It's every week between March 26th and July 31st, or March 29th and July 31st. I always get those 2 dates mixed up.
Great. Okay, we got through our questions and we're only 2 minutes late. Claire.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Never has it happened.
I did get UI. I don't, Siraj, I mean, I don't know what your current situation is, Siraj, but you should have received $600 every week. If you're self-employed, are you self-employed or are you an employee? You're self-employed. So there may be some issue with processing your claim, again, because you were receiving benefits when a lot of self-employed individuals were not. So you may have, I would call and appeal that. And again, remember this new portal for self-employed individuals, I want to stress this, even if it's after July, let's say worst case scenario, heaven forbid, this is after July, becomes available after July. These benefits are retroactive. So they will start the date that you lost hours or wages due to the impact of COVID-19, okay? So don't worry, but it will be an appeal process. And Siraj, it sounds like you need to appeal that, but probably wait until this new portal is open for you as a self-employed individual.
Good. So Claire, Deborah, and I want to echo this, says, Claire, you have done such an exceptional job compared to other informational Zoom meetings of other agencies. Gold star to you. And
thank you. Claire,
gold star.
Thank you so much. I never know, like, if it is, sometimes I wish I could see all your faces because it would be so much easier, but I really appreciate that. And we will do these thank you, Katrina. Thank you so much, Katrina. We'll continue to host these webinars as long as they remain valuable. And I encourage you, if you are not an EDC client, to sign up and receive more guidance and help and any way that we can give that to you. We are here for you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Visionality, for your continued support. And I appreciate it. I hope everyone has a good afternoon.